We now have all global GPs from private equity, venture, private credit, private real estate firms, and investment firms, and all their investment criteria. We have all of their funds. We have fund performance of those underlying funds. We have private fund benchmarks. We also have about 130,000 private companies that are sponsor-backed or owned by private equity and venture. And we also have about 35,000 companies and growing that are non-venture-backed, founder-led. So the whole database has really expanded far beyond our roots of just serving the fundraiser, where we can now serve private equity deal teams. And if you believe that private equity and the private fund investing world is only going up, up, and up, which it appears to be, as well as private credit lending to private companies, we are serving the needs of investment bankers, executive search firms, law firms, private equity firms on the deal origination teams, corporate VCs.
Speaking to Gui Costin today from Dakota. Dakota is a company helping other companies raise capital. He's also the author of 3 books speaking about how hiring millennials and giving them authority can help you grow your company fast. But we're going to find out more from him. Hi, welcome, Gui.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Actually, it's pronounced Guy, but
Guy. Oh, Guy. Hi.
Yeah, but thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And my extreme interest also to hear what you have to say. You mentioned that you're writing your 3rd book. One of your previous books was focusing on hiring and managing the millennial workforce. Is the 3rd book, the one that's coming out now, also on the same topic?
No, it's a leadership lessons learned. The book is called Be Kind, and we're just finishing up the transcript today. And it's all the lessons that I've learned over the years, mistakes I've made on leadership, culture, how you treat people, and trying to really create a world-class place to work.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about your company. How did you start it? What was your inspiration? How did you grow it? Yeah, maybe share a bit of your lessons learned.
Sure. So in 2005, 2006, I was working for a real estate firm, and I had an idea for a product. And I went to the CEO and I said, hey, we could do a fund of funds, a real estate fund of funds. And he goes, I love this idea. I said, okay. He goes, come in and present to the investment committee. And before that, he had said, we can go raise the money, but we're not going to know how to pick funds for the fund of funds. So we'll have to find a partner. Is that right, Guy? I said, yes, I found the partner. He said, great, present to the executive committee. So I presented to the executive committee. Not only did they deny the product, but they fired me, gave me 90-day severance. And that was in the spring of 2006. So I went back to the firm that we had talked to about being the fund picker. They said, hey, we'd be happy to do it with you. And that's how Dakota started. So as a fund of funds, and then we also worked with another firm to raise capital for them. And that firm had, as you probably know in the US, we have mutual funds. They had a mutual fund that had $25 million. And in the past 19 years, we've scaled that mutual fund. It peaked at 35 billion. So we've been able to be very successful raising capital for a variety of different investment firms.
Why did you decide to write your book with a focus on millennials? How did this aspect of the workforce contribute to your growth?
So about 10 years into the founding of Dakota, we had a lot of success. And in 2016, I started exploring creating a platform for Dakota. And my idea was, hey, we could create a content platform for investment firms where they could then come and upload podcasts, PDFs, interviews, videos, anything like that, where anyone then diligencing those firms could log in and view all this information in one place. And the theory was that millennials, who are these due diligence analysts at the global LPs, will do 70% of their research online before buying a product. And so I wrote a book that catered to that audience and talking about the buying behaviors of the millennial generation. And that's why I wrote the book. It was to support the platform that we had created. Now, the only problem that I ran into is that the book came out in February of 2019. We launched the platform in June of 18. And what ended up happening is we had 14 paying customers, 14 paying investment firms, and they came on, and I knew right then and there the business was dead on arrival, that it was over. And I'd spent a lot of money building this platform, building a sales team to go out and sell it. We had 14 paying customers. And so as we got into July of 2018, the summertime, those paying customers thought we were going to drive all of these investors to our platform to view their information. And unfortunately, it wasn't happening. And so I said to our team, I said, you know what? We need to do something for these paying customers. And since we have a sales team and we have a very defined sales process, our weekly sales meetings are really rich and dynamic. So I said, why don't we invite the 14 salespeople to like our weekly sales call in August? It was Friday, August 24th, 2018. And I said, we'll call it Dakota Live, like Saturday Night Live. We'll call it Dakota Live. And so we did that, but we choreographed it. We turned it into a show. We brought on someone to interview, a chief investment officer to interview. We covered a city, Boston. Hey, if you're going to Boston, these are all the investors we want to meet with. And we covered a few very large investors, JP Morgan Private Bank being the first. Well, lo and behold, everybody that listened in loved it because we were sharing all these free leads of potential investors. So we decided to run it the next week, called Dakota Live, episode 2. Different interview, different geography, different key account, different notes, so on and so forth into September. And by October 1st, everyone started asking for the names, phone numbers, and email addresses of the people that we were talking about, because these were all these allocators across the United States that we were talking about. We said, well, that's our proprietary CRM database. We can't sell that. And then I realized that the first platform was dead on arrival. Then and there was commercialize our database of investors and sell access to it to other investment firms. And now 6.5 years later, we have 5,800 fundraisers, about 1,260 investment firms as subscribers to Dakota Marketplace, our database of LPs.
And yeah, is the Dakota Live show still ongoing?
Yep. We're going to do episode 273 this week.
Wow. So you're doing it every week. Fantastic.
Yep. Well, right now we do it monthly, but we're shooting it this week. And we also shoot about 7 other shows. As you can see, I'm in our studio right here.
Yeah.
It's an ESPN studio, and we do about 7 other shows in addition to Dakota Live.
How about your newest book, the leadership focused one? Would you like to share some of the learnings and recommendations on leadership?
Yes. And the whole point of the book is I'm not a perfect leader. And along the way, I've had my moments, and not moments that I'm necessarily proud of, but I share that in the book. And the reason being is because over the past 5-6 years, we always had a great culture dating back to 2006, but along the way, it was a little bumpy. And all these lessons learned, what I realized about 5-6 years ago, there were certain behaviors as we really scaled the company that I had to stop. I couldn't behave like it was a locker room. And I couldn't just say whatever I wanted, whatever came out of my mouth. And so in doing that, I started really being introspective around kindness without sacrificing the hard charging culture that we have, playing at the highest professional level. And the question was, could we combine a very kind culture, not nice, right? Nice is the devil, right? Kind with hard charging. And that's what we've done. We're a living, breathing example of living that, where leaders I don't believe, give as much thought to what comes out of their mouth, the words they use to their teammates. And so they'll make offhanded comments. They'll say certain things. They won't be as encouraging. They could be judgmental. They could even be mean. And I talk a lot about that in the book. And because I believe that with your teammates that come to work every day, they spend more time at work than they do at home. And are they going to have a real magical experience at work where they're treated with respect and kindness, where they're challenged, where there's clear expectations, where they're treated like an adult? It's a very nice work environment. This is what I talk about in the book. And we've proven that it's very possible to perform at a very high level and do it with kindness. And so that's the theme of the book.
And so do you hire for kindness as well as a part of the requirements for a hire, or do you do they kind of mold in the culture that you've created, the new hires?
So because we have hired so many young people that have grown up in the company, that I don't have to do the hiring anymore. And so the team of how I treat them and how they treat one another, they can know pretty much immediately if the person's going to be a cultural fit or not. And we tend to not try to mold people into our culture. People come in, they meet us, they hear about the culture, and they say, hey, this is what I want to be part of. And some people just don't want to be part of this. And it's kind of obvious in the questions that our teammates ask. So all I have to do is do 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews with our teammates, and they'll come back. And we have a unanimous vote. So there's no, right, if one person says no, then it's over. And so it's really the teammates that have been inoculated in the culture are the ones that make those decisions, not me. So I believe people want to be treated like adults, and they want to have very clear expectations of how to get their job done. I believe all human beings left unattended are going to do exactly what they want to do. And that's why putting guardrails in place and processes is very, very important. But at the same time, treating people like adults, having clear expectations, knowing that you have their back. So it's abundantly clear that you have their back, and also setting your standards. One thing I think companies really lack is defining what they stand for, their standards, more commonly called core principles. But they should be in the words of the company. And so every teammate that joins the company and before they join the company, they should know what the company stands for. And it shouldn't be like trust and integrity and teamwork. Those are all, they don't mean anything to anybody. You need to come up with your own core principles. So for instance, us, walk the 8 feet, don't go cowboy. We grow apples. We sell them to apple buyers. We don't try to convince orange buyers to buy apples. Throw your hat over the wall. Turn your brain off. These all have meaning behind the phrase of the actions that you want someone to take. So I think how you empower people is you give them very clear direction and expectations and transparency and accountability. And then you treat them like an adult and you let them get their job done. And you don't need to manage them every step of the way, but you also want them coming back to you or their teammates and going through progress against the plan, whatever that. So communication is absolutely one of the most important things. Internal communication is the lifeblood of a business, the inside of a business, constantly sharing progress, thoughts, things that are happening. There's a lot of tools right now like Slack and others, and then just normal check-ins can accomplish that as well. But I believe that is one of the most important things, is that internal communication.
Is this what you just explained, the no policy that you have in your company? Autonomy, yeah.
Yeah, autonomy. So no T&E policy, no vacation policy. Take the time you need, or just act like an adult, be responsible. And I don't need to say it that way. It's just like, look, because if you're going to sit there and take so much time off, you're never in the office, it's not going to work out very well for you, because that's not the goal. But people need to take time off. And so I want them just to do it at their leisure. If they want to work from home, right, for a little while, work from home. There's no hard and fast policies as it relates to that. But I also want to create a great work environment where people can come in, we have food, coffee, snacks, water, all those sort of creature comforts that make it very fun and enjoyable to be in an office, all working together, serving our customers.
How can people get a hold of the database that you have? What does it take to get registered?
So all you have to do is go to dakota.com and schedule a demo, and we'll walk you through the database. And the database has grown very dramatically beyond our roots as focused on fundraisers and LPs, if you will, global LPs. We now have all global GPs from private equity, venture, private credit, private real estate firms, and investment firms, and all their investment criteria. We have all of their funds. We have fund performance of those underlying funds. We have private fund benchmarks We also have about 130,000 private companies that are sponsor backed or owned by private equity and venture. And we also have about 35,000 companies and growing that are non-venture backed, founder led. So the whole database has really expanded far beyond our roots of just serving the fundraiser, where we can now serve private equity deal teams. And if you believe that private equity and the private fund investing world is only going up, up, and up, which it appears to be, as well as private credit lending to private companies, we are serving the needs of investment bankers, executive search firms, law firms, private equity firms on the deal origination teams, corporate VCs, corporate development teams of public companies trying to do M&A. So we're serving far beyond just the fundraiser, which has been for the first 6 years of our database. Those are the roots. Now we've expanded far beyond that.
Who would you expect to be the typical reader of your upcoming book about leadership?
Well, I think this is going to be very broad-based because I'm really hitting on a nerve that it takes intense vulnerability. Right? You have to be very vulnerable to be able to lead in this way, where you're basically treating people like adults and creating an environment where the energy you bring as a leader to the environment is basically everything. And that energy, and people feed off of that energy. How you're going to treat them, they're going to treat one another. And so it's really anybody in a position. It could be, the last chapter is called Little League. So, in the States, if you know baseball and other Little League sports, 8-year-old kids, right? Those parents and those coaches can sometimes take that Little League job too seriously and kind of ruin, right, the fun that the kids want to have. And work can be fun as well. Work can be a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be 8 straight hours, right? People can be hanging out, chatting, working. It should be fun, challenging, interesting. And so it's anybody who's really in a leadership role and sometimes in a first-time leadership role, or they've been in a leadership role and they have high turnover, any things like that, because it's very easy to be a jerk, as we all know, right? It's very easy to say whatever comes out of your mouth. The question is, can you be very thoughtful and introspective and be okay and not feel like you're going to be taken advantage of? Because people say, well, if I'm kind, then I might be taken advantage of and people will walk all over me. Not true, as we've proven, but I'm really busting all these myths. And hopefully it's a book. It's the softer side of leadership. And I mean, trust me, writing it was not emotionally that easy, because you really have to dig deep, right? To be willing to tell all your bad stories that you've done or things that didn't really work out. So it's definitely can be a challenge, but it was a very fun book to write, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Well, what is one story that stands out that you could share with us from your experience, and that's also in the book?
Well, the story that I tell is that sort of the thing that really transformed me and made someone, believe in me or me believe in myself was a teacher. And I always say that everybody in high school, right, there's some teachers that were hard on you, right, and it kind of teased you or demeaned you. And then if you pick your favorite teacher, what's the common characteristic of the favorite teacher? Really probably treated you more like a friend, right, and really got you, right, and wasn't judgmental, right, because you're going through those teenage years, you're exponentially growing and you're awkward and the whole thing. I mean, everybody is, but it's that one teacher who really saw something in you and treated you as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to me. And it was a situation where I was on the ice hockey team and it was a really rough season. And the coach called the teacher, who's the teacher representative on the hockey team, Mr. Berg, and said, hey, I want to kick Guy off the team. And so he goes, I don't think that's how you want to deal with Guy. So he calls me at home one night and he goes, look, this is what coach called. He wants to kick you off the team. I told him that's not the right way to go about it, but I really need you to step up and pull the team out of their doldrums. It's a toxic environment right now. Can you step up? And then he said, and by the way, too, not only do I want you to step up, but your production this year in the first 10 games, you scored 1 goal. So you've been yelling at a lot of people. You've been toxic. Can you figure out how to turn it around? And our captain of our team had been going through a tough time. So the next morning, I assembled the team, didn't invite the captain, said, we're going to do this for him. We're going to turn the team around. This is what we're doing. First game that night, I sat down with each player individually, told them how much they meant to the team. And we went out, had a huge win that happened 2 days later, another huge win. Everyone was blown away how we were playing. and that ended up taking us into the playoffs. But the interesting thing is that week after those first 2 games, we were in school in homeroom. Mr. Berg didn't come to the games, and because he was traveling, and he walks into the homeroom, he looks right at me, and he goes, "Now, I know if I want to get something done, who I can go to."
Mhm.
And so, that gave me that story. I can still recount 40 years later, really transformed me. He believed in me, he challenged me, and then I was able to step up. And so that's, one story of someone actually caring about you and mentor, however you want to say it. But he really treated me, like a friend and didn't demean me or put me down, which kind of is more common than not in those scenarios.
Well, thank you very much for this conversation, Guy. Anything else that you would like to share that you desperately want to? I've
No,
been asking you.
just if somebody wants a copy of my book, send me an email to gui@dakota.com, and you can find me at dakota.com.
Thank you so much. Pleasure
Thank
talking.
you. Thanks.